It's just preparing to live stream. Hi, welcome everyone. It is the 16th of July, 2023, and this is Poetry and Prose, our open mic and discussion meeting. We have a full pack session today, and I'm looking forward to hearing everyone read. So we're gonna open with, I believe we're opening with Ashira Ali reading My Fantasy Dream by Motilal Budusing. Ashira, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. Now, as she said, this afternoon I will be reading this piece entitled My Fantasy Dream by none other than Mr. Motilal Budusing. Let's begin. What if our dreams can actually be a reality, happening in a parallel universe while we sleep? The ancient Greeks believed that dreams were messages from the gods. The Chinese, messages from our ancestors, and the Native American Indians believe that we live via our spirits in another world while also existing in this one. Dream, 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 dream. When I want you in my arms, want you and all your charms, all I have to do is dream. Whenever I want you, all I have to do is dream. Dream, dream, dream. It was about 61 years ago when I was around 10 that I went to sleep one night unaware of the great adventure that awaited me. It was then I had a dream that would repeat itself with slight variations throughout my entire life. You see, that morning I saw the most beautiful girl in the world. I was living at the edge of the Bacal Recreation Ground in a little carrot house with my mother, father, and 4 sisters. We had recently moved to this village. I was the second child. We were poor. The bigger boys played football and cricket in the middle of the ground, while the smaller boys had their own little games at the end. The girls would play near the front of our house in groups, with their balls or playing hopscotch or with their hula hoops. When the ball came into our yard, I ran to give it back. And then I saw her, Rita. She was playing with my sister Chandra and a neighbor Bela. She was about 2 years older than me, fair with shoulder-length hair, wearing a blue dress and red slippers, and so pretty. I immediately became conscious of my bare feet, torn in the back shorts and my missing buttons on my shirt. But I felt something strange. I liked her. I like her so very much. And that night, the dreams began. What I dreamed that night was real to me. It was as if somehow I was transported to a different world. I had new clothes and shoes, and Rita was my best friend, and we would be playing in a beautiful garden, like those in my grandmother's stories or in the storybooks I read in my school. And similar dreams would visit me many, many times at varying periods in my life, whenever some events occurred that even remotely involved her. She was writing Common Entrance in 1962, the first time the exam was held. I will do it 1 year later. I prayed for her success. By now, we were exchanging books. She did not care much for my Western comics, and I had few books to lend. Her elder brother was a teacher and had a library, something I had only seen before at school, where there was a cupboard full of books for each class when we had story time twice a week. So, most of the book I read came from her. When she passed for St. Joseph Convent, San Fernando, the only one in the school to do so, the entire village rejoiced. And I was especially happy. But the dreams came. In them, I too had passed and we were traveling together to school. I would start high school 1 year later at ModSec. We had a strange friendship. We would talk about books, poetry, songs, never saying that we liked one another, but knowing that we did. Remember those autograph books? When leaving school, we used to write messages in them for our friends. I wrote in the books of my fellow students from ModSec. In my dream world, I wrote in her book. A long, long time ago, on graduation day, you handed me your book. I signed this way. Roses are red, my love. Violets are blue. Sugar is sweet, my love, but not as sweet as you. We started work. She, a teacher, me at the oil fields. I supposed we drifted apart when she went to UWI. I could not afford to do so. That year, my sister got married and she stayed the night before the wedding at our home. That was the first and only time I told her that I loved her. We talked all night, and she invited me to a Diwali celebration at UWI. The magic of that night remains with me to this day. I stayed away from work to attend. At the function, I could not find her. Her friends said they had not seen her. I later found out that she was with her rich UWI boyfriend hiding from me. I returned home dejected and for the first time had a sad dream about us. Next thing, I knew she was getting married, but not to me. For months, I walked about as in a sad dream. In my parallel world, the dreams alternated happy, sad, happy, sad. Life happened. She migrated to Canada with her family. I, with my own, remained in Trinidad. She visited from time to time, and we would talk about the old days. I, with a puppy-like devotion, and she with just enough to keep me dreaming. I wonder if you know that you say that you care. If you say you love me madly, I gladly be there, like a puppet on a string. The dreams became less frequent. One time she came home, and for the first time, I did not go and look her up. I was divorced and raising my 2 children on my own, my wife having migrated to London. She was waiting for a taxi to take her to the bank when I passed. I stopped for her, my heart beating wildly as I did so. I was 50, she 52. She inquired about my children who had both finished university and doing well. Why don't you get married again? She asked. I replied, my voice shaking, I have been waiting for you for 40 years. She kept silent. That night, the dreams returned. When her mother died a few years ago, she came home. I attended the funeral. She, her brother and sister were at the coffin to perform final arati before the other mourners would be allowed. She looked at me and signaled that I joined them and handed me a red rose. I never felt closer to her as I did then. COVID came, and she hasn't returned to Trinidad since. Now 71, I still have my dreams. I remember from my primary school days, my head teacher saying, it is better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. A parallel world of fantasy and dreams have brought me much happiness. And that's it for me on today's episode of Poetry and Prose. Hope you enjoyed.
Thank you, Shahira. Thank you so much for reading. That was a lovely reading. Anyone wanting to comment?
Yeah, I loved it. I love the way it started. There is, this distinction between dreams and memories. Like, I would always like to think of it as adventure is really just the human endeavor to turn dreams into memories. And it's fascinating that so many of our dreams revolve around, how should I say, romance or finding, that special someone. So it really reminds me of how sometimes we scour the whole world, the whole universe, just to find the one that we want to be with, who often is right next to us. And whether we find them or not, it's always up in the air. So that's what makes it so exciting and so scary at the same time.
What I got from this was reminiscent of the phenomenon of first love. It's not just a romantic episode, but first love is indestructible and leaves an indelible mark in your brain. And in fact, Albert Einstein once said, "How on earth are you ever going to explain in terms of chemistry and physics so important a biological phenomenon as first love? It never leaves you." And that's what I saw in him. And I mentioned that in the first part of my Love Has Two Moons stories. Moti might pick up on that. So it was quite a twist to see how he presented it.
Yeah, okay, let me add. Yes, Shahira. So you had some, let me add the parts about the songs. I recognize 3. The opening one, dream, 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 dream.
Yes.
Dream, right, Moti?
Yes. Eversley Brothers.
Dream, dream, dream. Who was that?
The
Sophia?
Eversley Brothers.
Eversley
The
Brothers.
Eversley
Whenever I
All right, you
need
see,
you,
Eversley Brothers.
all I have
Good.
to
It is
do
you
Right.
is
to
dream.
dream. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
That's
I remember
one.
that well.
Right. And then the next one I recognize is Roses Are Red. A long, long time ago.
Time.
And graduation. Right, Muti?
Yes,
Roses
yes.
are red, my love.
So Shahira, we enlighten you, right?
If I knew those songs, I would have definitely sung them.
Yes, yes. And then the third one I recognize is Stella Black's Puppet on a String. Again, I echo here. What is it called? Too long? Too much? Yeah. Stella Black, Puppet on a String. Still getting the echo.
See if
Puppet
you're
on a
getting it.
String.
Okay.
I wonder one day that you say that you care. If you say you love me madly, I'll gladly be there. Like a puppet on a string, Frank, remember that?
Oh,
Yeah?
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like,
don't
like
know
a
that
puppet
one.
on a string. Cilla Black, I remember Cilla Black singing that, puppet on a string. And then the close of the story is a quote from Tennyson. Correct, Moti? It is better to have loved than lost than never to have
Never to have loved that.
Tennyson. So as Frank said, the first, they say the first cut is the deepest. No, that's not what they say. But first love, first love is this, yeah, it's could very well be the strongest. And I now remember what it is I wanted to say. There's this book by who's the fellow who wrote 100 Steps? Darren, who's the fellow who wrote 100 Steps? The Spanish fellow, the Spanish writer. Anyhow, Love in the Time of Cholera. I saw the movie. I didn't read the book, but I saw the movie Love in the Time of Cholera.
Garcia something.
Yeah, Marquez, right? Garcia, Marquez. Yeah, Love in a Time of Cholera. It reminded me of that, where this fella was in love with this girl and she went through, he was waiting for the husband to die and this man takes so long to die. But eventually he died, the husband died. And he approached her and they had time together. They were able to spend some time together in their old age. So Muti, it reminded me of that. Okay, that's my
The heart never dies, you know. The heart never dies.
true.
Mutilal, anything you'd like to share?
I just wanted to agree with Motilal, that the first love always leaves an indelible mark
Yeah.
on you. You never forget it. Never forget it.
Well,
Well,
one more question I have to pose to Moti. Who is this famous Rita? I'll close it.
she shall remain anonymous at this time. But that's something I
Appreciate.
wrote a little while ago, and I didn't want to put it out. But after my recent experiences, with the bypass operation and the hospitalization in the UK and all that, I say, look, you better put it out with me. So that is why I think there. And I know most of the people, the older people in the group would recognize the songs and all that. But it's still very much with me up to this day,
Part of you.
because sometimes when this unnamed person and we meet, I lose my voice.
Moti, let me advise
Yeah,
you,
but
tread carefully, man, before you put it out, you say, TK, you get put out. Tread carefully.
no, I keep on telling Savi, I write fiction.
Okay, go ahead.
Have you all ever seen the
Okay,
movie?
thanks everybody for the reaction.
Okay.
Thanks everybody for the comments.
Sapia is
Certainly
asking.
appreciate it.
Sapia is asking something.
Have you all seen the movie The Long Returning? The Long Returning, where this couple was in love and she got a terrible disease, and they decided to put her body in, what is the word? To freeze her body then, and he would visit her every single day. And when she finally recovered, of course, he was an old man. And she was still young. And they had something that night and he died. He died. So.
Well, I don't know if this is relevant, but the doctors tell me that after this bypass, it would seem as if I would have a new heart.
Yeah.
Motilal, don't test it, huh?
Okay, on that note, there are no other comments. Sophia, are you on? Would you like to turn on your camera, please?
Yes.
Sophia will be reading for us today, My Genie of Love. And we went back and forth
No,
with a lot of...
I didn't get that one.
Okay,
I
so
will do the other one, My Poetic Muse.
My Poetic Muse, sure.
Okay, all right.
Okay, if you'd like to turn on your camera, I'll spotlight you.
Let's see what the stop video. It's not coming on. Your video has been spotlighted.
You were on for just now. Okay, I'm seeing you.
Okay, I wrote this in 2013, actually, a long time ago. And at all poetry. I'm a writer of verse, or so I think. But very often, when my pen I grasp, my elusive muse leaves me on the brink. I beg her to return. I cry, I gasp. Her face she shows. I breathe with relief. She is so short-tempered, impatient beyond belief. I make her sit, her patience to implore, knowing full well she might disappear through the door. I take up my pen, words begin to appear, yet I know full well I'll never be Pope or Shakespeare. Words start to take shape in my hapless mind. I'll make do with whatever gems I can easily find. I finally get my muse to do as I please. Words start crowding my mind with the utmost ease. I must choose each one carefully, select the best, for I want the final composition to pass the test. With my pen flowing fast, I become what I dream. I'm now a bird in flight, soon I'll be a moonlight beam. I scan the four corners of the globe. I traverse the entire universe. I produce gems out of mere words. I create poetic verse. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments?
Yeah, I think it's really good that you know that you have a familiarity with your muse. A lot of us, if asked, could never fully explain where we get our inspiration from.
But I think everybody gets this kind of blankness, or nothing comes to you. You know, I get most of my inspiration like 2-3 o'clock in the morning, because when there's noise around me, I can't think. Even when the television is on, the place has to be absolutely quiet. And I think that hour in the morning, they say 2-3 o'clock, is a kind of special hour. I think it's the time when people do meditation and all that, so it comes, then. And no matter how much I try to do something in earlier, it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. But it comes at that hour. But I think we all go through this kind of blankness. Hello?
No, that was an echo, don't worry.
Yeah, I think we all go through this kind of when we write. Sometimes you take up your pen and you don't know what to write. But something has to set you off, about writing. Something might come in your mind. Like I told Kisha the last time that certain words from one language might help you to compose, like the words from an Indian movie, Milan or Judai Hai, got me to write that poem I wrote in Spanish, La Partida, the meeting and the parting, which I wrote in Spanish first, and then I translated. I did English, so some things, comes in your mind sometimes from one language, and you just put it into, and actually wrote that when I was waiting for parents to come and see me, my last week at Cunupia High, where I did a year's contract teaching, nobody was coming upstairs to meet me. So I sat down and I wrote that whole poem, La Partida, like in half an hour. And what it says was that we are two boats meeting on this journey of life. And could you give me some light? You come near to me and give me some light, and I will come near to you and give you light. And the gist of it is we are both boats, and we were both created by the same genius, the same craftsman. We have a lot of cargo, and some bad, some good. But we are still boats, and we let us give each other some light, because in this life, we may never meet again. So that was the gist of that, or the lesson, I suppose, behind that poem. I like to give lessons. When I say lessons, something about, the all-powerful being, or, some moral. I always like to give a moral kind of advice in my poetry, because I think the world is so broken up. I think we must concentrate on something like that, and love. I write a lot about love as well. That's my take on. That's my take.
Thanks for sharing. Any other comments? If not, we're going to move on to Darren.
Yeah,
Sure.
just give me a little chance to say, Sophia, at the platform West Meets East, which RT is a part of, and she's introducing Caribbean poets in this forum. I read this. She passed this on to me to read. Did
Which
you
one?
have a look at
My
it? My Poetic Muse?
Yes, yeah.
You had a
Yeah, I
look at
look at
it?
it, yes. Yes, I
Okay,
look at
right.
it, yes.
Right, good. I was just wondering if
But
you had
she,
you saw the video now.
she saw one of my poems, another one, Pent Up Tears of Sorrow. I don't know if you read it. And she wants to read it at the next one. Did you see
No,
it?
I read my two I read,
Pent Up,
my Poetic
my Pent
Muse
Up.
and Your Dancing Muse of Poetry.
No, this one I posted last week sometime, and Artie likes
Yeah.
it so much. She asked me if she can read it at the next.
Okay. All right, Gush, all yours.
Hi, thanks for that, Krishna. That was a nice plug. Darren, you are up, and Darren will be reading for us today, A Roadmap of Life.
Okay, this is a short one. A roadmap of life. Would you live in the city of dreams, to frolic in that great capital of sleep? Feed the multitude, part the sea, wield the Excalibur, kiss the queen, slay the dragon, build a giant horse, walk on water, die on a cross. Many wonders to work, prophets to believe. Such is life in the city of dreams. Would you live in the city of machines, to be part of that grand mechanical scheme, where all is specific, all is designed, all is calculated, all is aligned, lights and clockwork, logic on wheels, chips and wires, silicon and steel, everything precise and orderly, such is life in the city of machines? Or would you live in the city of men, blur the border between sainthood and sin, world concerts for peace and nuclear war, spread a disease and then find the cure, give tithes on Sunday and give the devil his due, put man on the moon and put weapons there too, sure to do right, but never sure when, such is life in the city of men. The end.
Lovely.
I like In the City of Men.
I
Any-
like the first one, City of Dreams.
Any
I prefer
comments?
to- Yeah, I prefer to stay in the first
Yes,
one.
if I may, Gush.
Certainly.
Okay, I find it, real coincidental that, we talk about dreams again.
Yes.
But I think that Darren's poem is very, very relevant, especially in these days where we talking about what's the new program on the computer now is IA or AI or something, artificial
AI.
intelligence.
Yeah.
And it takes me back to when I was in primary school, and they were talking about the emergence of the Iron Age and the Machine Age.
Yeah.
And I saw Krishna and Sophia and Harry, if he's listening, and maybe Cynthia, will remember a poem like this. As we surpass our father's skills, our sons will shame our own.
Mhm.
1,000 things are hidden still, and not 100 known. I think it's a poem by Tennyson. Krishna could probably correct me.
Yeah.
But I like the theme, and it's so relevant about what is happening in today's world. Excellent poem, Darren. Thank you.
And to think this was written way back in 2008, I think.
Very good.
Yeah. This was written as a sort of, you can say, a
Yeah,
tribute
yeah.
to another poem. This is a poem by Edwin Brock, titled 5 Ways to Kill a Man, where he talks about, some of the great conflicts and great deaths. It's a short poem. I'll put a link in the chat so you guys can check it out later. That's what inspired this.
But do we have a choice? Do we have a choice to move from one to the next?
In terms of the cities,
Yes.
I think that is what the City of Men is all about, where they don't choose one or the other.
They can move.
Yeah, they
Yes.
can move. Their city is kind of everything and still its own thing. It's everything and yet everything in between.
Yeah. So you can move.
Yeah, you can move.
Yeah, that is because when you want to be in dreams, you stay in dreams, and when you want to be practical and worldly, well, of course, you go to either 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, very interesting, really very interesting. I like it.
Yes. Thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
very much.
If there are no other comments,
Yeah, let me ask Darren. So you have the City of Dreams, the City of Machines, the City of Men. I just wanted to know, is the poem structured in that those 3 stanzas like? Are they separate?
Yes, it's 3 standard.
Yeah,
3 stanzas.
Right. So that reinforces the division.
Yes, the separation.
Okay, good. Right. And so I like that. I like the contrast of the dreams, machines, and men.
Yeah.
That's all I.
Because when you think of it, how do you marry dreams and machines? People who gravitate towards the machine city, so to speak, tend to fully commit. And the same can be said of people who gravitate to the city of dreams. So there's very often there's very little crossover, is what I wanted to say. People tend to go more fully into the city they choose.
Yeah. But well, also I like the use of the word blur borders. That's the key.
Yes.
And your use of allusions in the first part, the City of Dreams.
Yes.
I say you use it, referring to Christ and Excalibur. Excalibur is what?
The magic sword.
That's King Arthur.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's King Arthur.
magic sword.
King Arthur. And slaying the
King
dragon.
Arthur's sword.
Yeah.
Yeah. Could I say something?
sure.
Yes, this reminds me to when he said when people go to machines, it reminds me of somebody, actually my son. He's done computer technology and he is so immersed in this. He wants all his children, to go his way.
Yes.
And I'm telling him that's not feasible because the children have their own minds.
Yeah.
One is very interested in art, but he still wants to, because he's totally immersed in it from way back. Computer technology, and he did his masters and whatever, first degree masters, he did GPS, kind of thing. So he's fully immersed in it, and he doesn't like to hear anything else, So what you're saying is true. The machine people, they don't want anything else but what they have, which is sad, actually, which is sad. I don't think they can appreciate poetry.
Yeah.
Either,
Well, there may be hope. There's AI.
Yeah.
All right,
Yes,
we're gonna
indeed.
go ahead and move on. I have my piece and it's called Rain. So, and this came from our last writing prompt. So, Rain. On High Street, it came down with a vengeance. God washing away their sins, Granny would say. It was never, hold on. We have someone coming in. Oh, Cassie's joining us today. Hi, Cassie. Welcome.
Hello.
Welcome. I'm now reading my piece called Rain. Rain. On High Street, it came down with a vengeance. God washing away their sins, Granny would say. It was never her sins or we sins. It was always you sins and they sins. Not wanting to huddle under the overhang with the mass of sweaty sinners, still getting lashed with God's blessings, I dashed across the road and took my licks. As I escaped into the bookstore, the AC hit my wet shirt and gave me a chill. You're looking for debt, Granny whispered. Hot to cold and your head wet too? You go get sick. You go get sick. Ignoring her threats, I headed for the stacks. I love spending my time searching for a cheap find, and the rain gave me a reason to meander and ignore Saturday's errands. He approached without sound. Well, you're a ray of sunshine in all this rain. This Black man with a heavy Nigerian accent, smiling with a wide tooty grin. He explained he was a social media influencer and wanted a picture of me. My headscarf attracted him, and he wanted to know more. Running from one storm into the next, Granny whispered. I smiled, feeling flattered, but also feeling trapped. The rain kept me imprisoned. Excuses made, I moved to the cooking section, resenting attention and the frosted glossy covers. He came again. Sugar for the sweet. You will make a man a diabetic. He laughed with a full, deep laugh that was loud. No one looked up. Granny fumed. Don't trust them, man, and them. Look at how he nasty to laugh so loud in a bookstore. Them people always looking for something. He offered me a business card, and I surprisingly took it. He was only in Trinidad for a few days. Are you from America? He confirmed. He lived in LA, but travels more often than he stays home. I escaped to the local section. Still not wanting to offend, still needing to escape, a gaze that I felt stolen. He found me again. You must stop following me, or I may have to marry you, he said with a white grin. He was the darkest man I'd ever saw, and his height towered over me. I thought of what Granny would say if he were to come to my home and ask my father's permission. Again, I rejected the photo opportunity. If I was from the area, he would love for me to show him around. He would pay for it all. The rain gave ease, and I escaped with excuses and apologies. Out the door, Granny started in. Gil, well, you real stupid. You could have been a star. Imagine if he is wealthy. The steam the rain created from the asphalt dissolved the coolness from which I came. I grabbed my cell phone, and the answer came on the first ring. We would meet again. Granny took a turn. He go kill ya, as it started to drizzle. This time, I let the rain kiss me softly as the vendors began another retreat. Let the rain wash away them sins. My sins are my own. Nice. That's my share. Any comments?
Lovely. I like it.
Great, Gush.
Thank
I
you.
like the use of the how you have the metaphor and you extend it throughout.
And the antithesis.
Yeah, and then the voice of the granny,
Yeah.
punctuating everything.
Yeah.
And even when the rain eased and you had to leave, Granny's voice changed. Not her perspective changed, but when the rains came back, I see her voice of dread return. Yeah, nice. I like how you use it. I like how you use the rain and the idea of the sins, and they come back to the sins at the end.
Does the rain change Granny's mood?
Gush, I like it. I agree with everything that Krishna said, and I like the way that you mix the standard English, with the dialect, right?
Yeah.
To distinguish well Granny's time and your time.
Yeah,
I think it was a lovely piece. Thank you.
yeah, I've been working on the dialect since croppers. So,
I like I like that it brings back that such strong memories every time you go out, Granny always saying cover your head. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not 100% sure where that came from. I think what it was is they did some experiments to find out how soldiers, um, how they fared in cold weather, and they found that the soldiers lost the most body heat from the top of the head. But it turned out that the reason for that was because, their bodies were covered and heads were bare. But people just took that and ran with it. It's like, cover your head, otherwise you'll die. and we contrast that with this other belief we have where a lot of people used to believe that the soul resided on the top of the head, which is why they say you don't pat a child on the head. Yeah, I like that. Also the image of the rain. When I was in secondary school, and that was the first time I really found myself out of the house so often. Sometimes I just really used to love walking in the rain because my grandmother wasn't there to tell me not to do that. I always liked the way the rain fell. It would fall directly in front of you, direct to the side. So it was kind of like cordoning you off, and it would do the same to everyone else. So it always looked like everyone was walking around inside a glass case.
It's like the barrage.
That's
It's like
lovely
the
imagery.
barrage in India.
Yeah.
Like the barrage in India.
Yeah, so it was a lot of nice imagery and a lot of nice memories brought up by that poem. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. If there are no other comments, we will move on. Kwesi, sorry. Did you bring anything you'd like to share today? We're closing off the open mic section.
Gershanatia and Althea. Althea.
Yes, we. Thank you, Althea.
Okay.
All right, so we're gonna go ahead and move on to our discussion section. The first piece we will be discussing is Girl from Jamaica Kincaid, who's one of my very favorite authors. All right, just give me a minute to bring this up. There we go. And it's Girl. So the formats, of course, we would read the piece and then it's open for discussion. Okay. Wash the white clothes on Monday and put them on the stone heap. Wash the color clothes on Tuesday and put them on the clothesline to dry. Don't walk barehead in the hot sun. Cook pumpkin fritters in very hot, sweet oil. Soak your little cloths right after you take them off. When buying cotton, make yourself a nice blouse. Be sure that it does not have gum in it, because that way it won't hold up well after a wash. Soak saltfish overnight before you cook it. It is true that you sing Bina in Sunday school. Always eat your food in such a way that it won't turn someone else's stomach. On Sundays, try to walk like a lady, not the slut like the slut you are so bent on becoming. Don't sing Bina in Sunday school. You mustn't speak to waff rat boys, not even to give directions. Don't eat fruits on the street. Flies will follow you. But I don't sing Bina on Sundays at all, and I never in Sunday school. This is how to sew on a button. This is how to make a buttonhole for the button you have just sewed on. This is how to hem a dress when you see the hem coming down, and sew to prevent yourself from looking like the slut I know you are so bent on becoming. This is how to This is how you iron your father's khaki shirt so it doesn't have a crease. This is how you iron your father's khaki pants so that they don't have a crease. This is how you grow okra far from the house because okra trees harbors red ants. When you are growing dasheen, make sure it gets plenty of water, or else it will make your throat itch when you are eating it. This is how you sweep a corner. This is how you sweep a whole house. This is how you sweep a yard. This is how you smile to someone you don't like too much. This is how you smile to someone you don't like at all. This is how you smile to someone you like completely. This is how you set a table for tea. This is how you set a table for dinner. This is how you set a table for dinner with an important guest. This is how you set a table for lunch. This is how you set a table for breakfast. This is how you behave in the presence of men who you don't know very well. And this way, they won't recognize you immediately. For the slut, I have warned you against becoming. Be sure to wash every day, even if it is just with your own spit. Don't squat down to play marbles. You're not a boy, you know. Don't pick people's flowers. You might catch something. Don't throw stones at blackbirds because it might not be a blackbird at all. This is how to make bread pudding. This is how to make dukuna. This is how to make pepper pots. This is how to make good medicine for a cold. This is how to make good medicine to throw away a child before it even becomes a child. This is how to catch a fish. This is how to throw back a fish you don't like. And that way something bad won't fall on you. This is how to bully a man. This is how a man bullies you. This is how to love a man. And if this doesn't work, there are other ways. And if they don't work, don't feel too bad about giving up. This is how to spit up in the air if you feel like it. And this is how to move quick so that it doesn't fall on you. This is how to make ends meet. Always squeeze the bread to make sure it's fresh. But what if the baker won't let me feel the bread? You mean to say, after all you are really going to be the kind of woman who the baker won't let near the bread? And that's the end of it. I'm going to reread the last sentence because I feel like I messed it up. Okay, it's not really a sentence. The way it's written, it's just like an ongoing long sentence. So I'll start from here. Always squeeze the bread to make sure it's fresh. But what if the baker won't let me feel the bread? You mean to say that after all you are really going to be the kind of woman who the baker won't let near the bread?
Yeah.
All right. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to screen share so we can see. Are you seeing it? Okay, so this is.
Can't read.
Are you seeing it at all? This is the piece.
Yes.
It's girl.
Yeah, it was
If you notice, it's not in stanza formed. It's one. Yeah, it's literally, there isn't a period in sight.
Yes, it's like one continuous
One continuous
sentence. Yeah.
sentence, yes.
I
because,
I would sum it up by saying on it, it is advice in totality. That is how I would describe that piece.
yeah.
Advice in totality.
Is the end a little suggestive there? Is that what that is?
Sure,
About
and
the baker
I'm
and
being
his, bread?
asked as well to reread the end. So I don't know where you would like me to start to reread. I guess I'll just reread from "This is how you make good medicine for a cold." Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, this is how to make good medicine for a cold. This is how to make medicine to throw away a child before it even becomes a child. This is how to catch a fish. This is how to throw back a fish you don't like. And that way something bad won't fall on you. This is how to bully a man. This is how a man bullies you. This is how to love a man. And if this doesn't work, there are other ways. And if they don't work, don't feel too bad about giving up. This is how you spit up in the air if you feel like it. And this is how you move quick so that it doesn't fall on you. This is how to make ends meet. Always squeeze the bread to make sure it's fresh. But what if the baker won't let me feel the bread? You mean to say that after all, you are really going to be the kind of woman who the baker won't let near the bread? So, I hope that's the part you wanted me to reread. Okay, thanks. So, any comments on this piece?
Yeah, you can say a lot. You can say a lot on it.
Good.
Good.
Yeah,
Sophia
I
says
have read this story a long time ago.
You did?
And
Moti?
the last part,
You read that? Good, man.
yes, I read the story a long time
Oh,
ago.
this is the first time I'm seeing it.
Yeah, I read it a long time ago. And I think the last part, when she's talking about if the baker would not let me squeeze the bread, in that if the girl follows her advice, she would become the type of person that the baker wouldn't dare talk to her. She would become a person of some standing, and some of the things in there did stand out to me, like don't eat fruits on the street, for flies would follow you, would reflect on how you behave and what type of company you would attract.
She kept wanting
Or,
her to be a
she's telling her
slut.
to,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
don't eat fruits on the street, for flies would follow you. So, your particular behavior would reflect on who you attract, and don't talk to the wolf rat boys, which would reflect the time and the place of this conversation. And another one to say that that she's just becoming a woman. Don't squat down to play marbles with boys, because you're coming at a time now that if you squat down to play marbles, you would have a view of your privates and all that. So this is some of the things that that stood out for me in this piece with Gosha's reading. Thank
Could
you.
I just say something? Could I
Sure.
just say something? Yes, the part with not eating on the street. When I was going to school, actually, Bishop Anstey, you were not to eat on the street at all. And if prefects caught you eating on the street, they would give you an order mark. But I think that habit was ingrained in me. I can't like say take a mango and eat outside in public. I don't eat in public actually. Just I suppose this was ingrained in us from school, and I still have that habit. Maybe it's a good habit. Not to eat on the streets, but anyway, it stayed with me. Thank you.
Sometime today on Facebook, there girl was reflecting on her time at St. Augustine Girls High School, and she was talking about how Anna Mahez rebuked a pupil for drinking sweet drink while walking on the road in the SAGS uniform. So
Yes.
What Sophia just said, it just reminded me of that.
Eat or drink, yes, we couldn't do it.
Yes. I don't know how well this would stand up in today's society. And
Yeah, reading it from
um,
today's society, I feel as if it's women policing women on behalf of men. Althea, I
in
just
today's
want to
society,
interject. I want to interject with what Athea is saying, because she's giving some comments in the chat. This is a mother of a certain generation, probably the 1950s, giving advice to a girl of a certain generation about
Mhm.
personal or public conduct.
Yeah.
And
Well, I did grow up in the 50s.
yeah, Kwasi contributed, why not a girl mocking her mother, giving advice about how to be a woman? And he also commented, it's a woman talking to her woman self about being a woman. So he feels this is internal conversation. And bread feels like cock. So we will leave those there up for discussion. Thanks for allowing me to interject, Mutilal.
Lucia,
Yes,
can I get in some of my
certainly.
interpretation of it? This is a dramatic monologue. The mode, the structure of it is a dramatic monologue, the form of it. That is where one person is speaking. You don't hear the other person in a dramatic monologue, but we do have two instances where we get the voice of the person being spoken to. That is the girl. And we see it in the use of the italics, but I don't sing Benna, however it's pronounced, but I don't sing Benna on Sundays at all, and never in Sunday school. That's the girl. And then the same girl comes back at the end. But what if the baker won't let me feel the bread? That's the girl spoken to, right? So it's two voices, but mainly one voice. That is the mother speaking to the girl. I get it's the mother speaking to a girl. Now the title is important. It's girl. This is a little girl. You get the impression it's a little girl being spoken to. But here are the kind of things this person is saying to this girl, right? Just what Althea commented a while ago. It is, to me, while it is entertaining, while it sounds, humorous and so on, it is very, there's a tragic tone about this speaker, because to me, this is the key. The key is this is how, and this is how. The repetition of this is how. The narrator has been acculturated in a certain way of life. Althea says it the 50s, but it could extend to a number of eras, right? What she's preaching or exhorting the girl to do, that's the tragedy of this piece. The fact that she's saying these things in a matter-of-fact way too, it shows the extent to which she has had to accept it as her way of life. So it's, to me, it's the plight of the female, hence girl, the plight of the female in a world or a culture that is male dominated. It's dictated by masculine strictures, right? So the person is domesticated in a number of ways. You wash, you iron, you cook, you plant, you sew, you sweep, you serve, you care, right? This is what is expected of the feminine aspect of a society. And she's disciplined in a number of ways: eating habits, walking, restrictions on singing Bene. And Bene, I Googled Bene. Bene is an Antiguan folk song. That's part of their heritage.
Oh,
Right?
okay, because I Googled
Part of
Bene
their
and I got
heritage. It's
Bene rhythm.
a folk song.
No, I
But the thing about the folk song is that they say it's calypso-like a genre, but it's scandalous gossip, bawdy rumors. So she don't want her to sing this. She hope she don't be singing this in Sunday school, I mean, you could sing it outside because that's our culture, right? So, and also in terms of hygiene, talking, smiling. So it's a socialization process she's talking about here. I said the key is this is how. This is how we do that, because she was taught that this is how we do it. This is how. And to me, that's the tragedy. But included in the list, in the catalog that she gives to this girl, one or two good measures of survival. This is how to bully a man. This is how a man, right? If a man bully, you want to bully him back? This is how to bully a man. And this is how to love a man. That's a very positive way of it. This is how to spit in the air and to move aside to avoid it falling on you. That is like negative things, let's say, right? So how to avoid negative things. This is how to smile to someone you don't like too much. This is how to make ends meet. To me, that's the crux of it. This is how to make ends meet. This is how to live for the time being that in the kind of society that we have, that they have us living in. I think that is what I draw from it. But there's a lot of, to me, it's while it's entertaining and so on, there is great tragedy in the fact that this person has taken on this kind of view of herself and what she has to, how she has to live in this society. Okay, all of us.
Could I say something on one of these things? The thing that was mentioned was when you spit up in the air, it doesn't fall on you, because I remember my parents saying that about certain people who gossip about other people's children. That is what is going to happen to them. When they spit up in the air, the spit would fall back on them. So I just wanted to comment on that in that context, because I heard my mother especially talk about that.
Yeah.
People who gossip, about other people's children. It would happen, something bad like what happened, when they spit up in the air, it would fall back on them. That's what I have to say there.
And just to help you with the ending, Gosha, this is how to make ends meet. Always squeeze bread to make sure it's fresh. And then the girl says, "Well, what if the baker won't let me feel the bread?" And then the mother said, "You mean to say," she's really upset now because she was telling this girl about being a slut. If you don't do these things, you'll be a slut. You're being raised as a slut. And people will say, you mean to say that after all, you are really going to be the kind of woman who the baker won't let near the bread? You woman cut your tail or something like that, to continue it like that. Yeah, girl, don't get me. that is the kind of tone you get. I got at it when she say, you are really going to be the kind of woman who the baker won't let near the bread. And Crazy says bread has some kind of reference to the genital, I suppose. So yeah, okay, that's my take.
Any other comments? I'm going to try to pull it up so we can hear it in the author's voice.
I like the distinction that the author made between the different types of smiles. Yesterday, actually, I participated in a communication training thing, and one of the things we touched on was, how to say, even on the phone, you can hear it in someone's voice if they smile, and smiling has so many nuances to it. So for instance, sometimes a person will smile at you, but the smile never really reaches their eyes, and it just has an off look to it.
Referring to girl, but
did I
Okay, I'm going to try to share my screen so we can hear it in the author's voice. And I found this as well. So maybe I'll share this first. Let me know if you guys are hearing.
Did you take your mother's advice? I suppose they were afraid to girl, but...
did I... of not becoming a slut?
Yes.
Well, It's not that I took her advice. I didn't have a chance of becoming a slut. My mother absolutely ruined sex for me. I mean, the idea that I if only is what I now say to myself as I'm so old. If only I had become a slut. It seems to me a slut is a perfectly enjoyable way to go through life. You can't have too much slutdom, I say.
That's one of the pieces that stood out to me as well, because it kept repeating, don't that you insist on becoming, the slut that you insist on becoming.
Slutdom. I like the word slutdom.
Yes.
Slutdom.
But here we're going to listen to it in the author's voice, so we can get a feel of how the author read her work.
It's called Girl, and it goes like this. Wash the white clothes on Monday and put them on the stone heap. Wash the color clothes on Tuesday and put them on the clothesline to dry. Don't walk barehead in the hot sun. Cook pumpkin fritters in very hot, sweet oil. Soak your little cloths right after you take them off. When buying cotton to make yourself a nice blouse, be sure that it doesn't have gum on it, because that way it won't hold up well after a wash. Soak saltfish overnight before you cook it. Is it true that you sing Benna in Sunday school? Always eat your food in such a way that it won't turn someone else's stomach. On Sundays, try to walk like a lady and not like the slut you are so bent on becoming. Don't sing Benna in Sunday school. You mustn't speak to wharf rat boys, not even to give directions. Don't eat fruits on the street. Flies will follow you. But I don't sing Benna on Sundays at all, and never in Sunday school. This is how to sew on a button. This is how to make a buttonhole for the button you have just sewed on. This is how to hem a dress when you see the hem coming down, and so to prevent yourself from looking like the slut I know you are so bent on becoming. This is how you iron your father's khaki shirt so that it doesn't have a crease. This is how you iron your father's khaki pants so that they don't have a crease. This is how you grow okra far from the house, because okra tree harbors red ants. When you are growing dasheen, make sure it gets plenty of water, or else it makes your throat itch when you are eating it. This is how you sweep a corner. This is how you sweep a whole house. This is how you sweep a yard. This is how you smile to someone you don't like too much. This is how you smile to someone you don't like at all. This is how you smile to someone you like completely. This is how you set a table for tea. This is how you set a table for dinner. This is how you set a table for dinner with an important guest. This is how you set a table for lunch. This is how you set a table for breakfast. This is how to behave in the presence of men who don't know you very well, and this way they won't recognize immediately the slut I have warned you against becoming. Be sure to wash every day, even if it is with your own spit. Don't squat down to play marbles. You are not a boy, you know. Don't pick people's flowers. You might catch something. Don't throw stones at blackbirds, because it might not be a blackbird at all. This is how to make a bread pudding. This is how to make dukuna. This is how to make pepper pot. This is how to make a good medicine for a cold. This is how to make a good medicine to throw away a child before it even becomes a child. This is how to catch a fish. This is how to throw back a fish you don't like. And that way, something bad won't fall on you. This is how to bully a man. This is how a man bullies you. This is how to love a man. And if this doesn't work, there are other ways. And if they don't work, don't feel too bad about giving up. This is how to spit up in the air if you feel like it. And this is how to move quick so that it doesn't fall on you. This is how to make ends meet. Always squeeze bread to make sure it's fresh. But what if the baker won't let me feel the bread? You mean to say that after all, you're really going to be the kind of woman who the baker won't let near the bread?
Interesting. Could I interject?
In the author's voice.
Could I say something?
Sure.
Yeah, okay. One more thing about the don'ts. I remember when I was growing up and my parents or grandparents cooked, they would say to you, don't dig in the middle of the pot. Don't take out food from the middle, right? Because that would be the best, actually. Take from the sides. So I remember that very well as she was saying all the don'ts, that's what we were taught. And of course, she didn't say anything about keeping your elbows off the table and all that sort of thing, especially when you grow up in a family that your elbows tend to hit one another because you all ate on wooden benches around the table, so your elbows would keep your elbows at your sides. So all those things, I remember. Thank you.
I presume from some of the words that she used that she's from the Caribbean. Where exactly is she from?
I believe she's from Antigua.
Antigua.
Okay.
Yes.
I know there was one thing that you don't grow near the house because it attracts red ants. What was that? Okra?
Okra.
Because in Jamaica, it's taboo to grow papaya, pawpaw near the house because it's supposed to make the men sterile if you grow it near the house. So I wondered if she had some Jamaican influence, which I think Antiguan people have.
Oh, I'm not sure if she has Jamaican influence, but she's traveled. She's well traveled.
No,
so
I'm
perhaps.
People in Antigua and people in Jamaica have a lot in common, including folklore and so on.
Okay. Kwasi said the whole thing is a girl mocking society or her mother, and it is sexual innuendo. Benna is sexually suggestive. Calypso, that's your framework. It's the same thing, LOL. Althea says, totally agree on the domestication and preparation for adulthood as the purpose of the piece. And Cassie says the passage is a Benna. So he's proposing that the entire thing is a form of Benna, composed by the little girl. She is being cheeky. LOL, that might be a strange conclusion, probably cantankerous and flirty and playful. The becoming is important too. And he also said he would have read it differently, more sweetly. Okay, interesting. Interesting indeed. All right, is anyone have any other last comments before we move on to another discussion piece? Yes, and Cynthia concurs. Jamaica Kincaid was born in St. John's, Antigua and Barbuda.
Not me. I checked it with Google.
Oh, yes. Okay, so she Googled it for us. Thank you, Cynthia. All right, if there are no other comments, I'm going to allow Sophia to take the floor. She's going, the next two pieces that we're looking at written in French. So she's fluent in French and she will be reading for us and taking us through, because this is also what she did her dissertation on.
Okay. Maya?
Kindly turn on your video so I can
Gosh,
go ahead and spotlight you.
got lost. Okay.
All righty, there you are.
Okay. Well, these two pieces are by Charles Baudelaire, who can't remember the exact century. I think it's the 19th going into the 20th, right? He was considered the forerunner of the romantic realist, but he broke away from the form and perfect, what he called, of the other people who came before, the Panacea, Potier, and them. So, but he thought that apart from form, he concentrated on form as well, but passionate feeling should also be included in his poetry. And this is what he did, right? he agreed with the Christian philosophy at the time that man was innately wicked, but he himself suffered from this feeling, and this is what he said in his poetry. He said, this ennui or this feeling of lassitude and total, whatever, feeling of, giving up. And this is why he went into drugs as well, right? Now, this first piece correspondence is, he says, he thought of what is the word? The feeling of synesthesia, which is the thought that when you smell something, it reminded you of something you ate or something. So he says all the senses are intermingled and is also nature. So this piece correspondence, I'm going to read it first, and then I'm going to see what he suggests in this correspondance. La nature est un temps où de vivants piliers laissent parfois sortir de confuses paroles. L'homme y passe à travers les forêts de symboles qu'il observe avec des regards familiers, comme de longs échos qui de loin se confondent dans une ténébreuse et profonde unité, vaste comme la nuit et comme la clarté. Les parfums, les couleurs et les sons se répondent. Il a des parfums frais comme les chairs d'enfants, doux comme les hautbois, verts comme les prairies, et d'autres corrompus, riches et triomphants, ayant l'expansion des choses infinies, comme l'ambre, le nous, le bourgeois et l'encens, qui chantent les transports de l'esprit et des sons. That's the poem. Anyone understood? I'm sure Cynthia did. Cynthia's there. Would Cynthia like to say something?
Not really. I read it beforehand, and I love the poems.
Yes, and the other one I like very much is the one of the last ones is Recueillement. So you want me to translate it, or people understood what?
Well, let's take them one at a time. So
Okay.
Unless you need to for your thesis.
What he's saying here is that nature is a temple where there are vivant piliers, alive pillars, if you want to say, and it sometimes allows or lets out what he says is confused power. We discussed that in more detail when I talk about the commentary on the poem. He says man passes there across these symbols, right, of the forest, and which observe him with familiar looks. And then he says, as long as the long echoes from afar become connected, confused, he says, in a dark and deep, he says, deep unity. Now look at here, his language is very, very effective. Says, vast as the night and as the day, as light. The perfumes, the colors, and the sounds reply. There are perfumes, he says, fresh as the flesh of children, soft as the oboe, he used the word oboe, green as the meadows, and there are others, corrupt, rich, and triumphant, is that he was using, having the expanse of infinite things as amber, but I don't understand this way. The bourgeois, I don't understand, but he talks about incense because he himself, well, let me finish it, which sings of the feelings of the spirit and the senses. Now, Baudelaire was very much given to drugs because he was trying to find a way, as he said, he was always, he himself loved perfumes, and he was always burdened by, and it comes up in his poem, they call it spleen ideal. He looked for this perfection, that he thought was outside of him. And then he felt that he was not there. So he fell. He always fell from this feeling of perfection to this lowly kind of feeling. Let me just say what the poem says here. The poem says, a poem which stands at the beginning of the poetic movement known as symbolism. Baudelaire establishes in it two main correspondence or relationships. First, everything on earth is the symbol of some spiritual reality. Nothing is completely material. Everything contains some spirit. Nothing is completely material. Secondly, inasmuch as everything is representative in its own way of the spiritual essence of the universe, all things are related to each other. Sense, colors, sounds, all possess equivalence. This theory is known as synesthesia, whereby Paul Baudelaire was himself, a color suggests a sound or a scent, a color. Baudelaire was himself most sensitive to perfumes, perhaps because the sense of smell is the most evocative to the memory. The word confuse here, they say, an important word because it makes plain that the relationship between spirit and matter is a mysterious one. Art based on correspondence will thus be an art of ambiguity and suggestion. Right? Familiar because man himself is part of nature and in part mind, part matter, and thus has affinities with all the rest of creatures. So this unity is that of all-pervading spirit. That is where the perceptions of the senses are considered capable of infinite extension. I remember some time ago, maybe in my youth, there was a piece of cheese that I was going to eat. And I suddenly thought, this smells like gasoline. Now, I never tasted gasoline, but the scent of this cheese reminded me of the scent of gasoline, as I said. So probably this is the kind of thing that he was talking about. That's it for that poem. Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Okay, we have the piece. Just 1 minute, I will bring it up. Here we go. We have the piece that was translated into English. Now, when I started to research this piece, and I found several different translations, which is always interesting. When a piece is written in one language and then it goes into another, sometimes it adds or loses. But I enjoyed this translation. Yeah, I think sometimes it adds a different meaning.
Yeah, it changes the meaning actually.
I'll go ahead and read this one, and I'll ask someone else to read the next. Okay. Or unless you would like to read it, Sophia, I'm not sure.
I can't see.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and read it.
Yeah, you go ahead.
Correspondence. Nature is a temple in which living pillars sometimes give voice to confused words. Man passes there through forests of symbols, which look at him with understanding eyes, like prolonged echoes mingled in the distance, in a deep and tenuous unity, vast as the dark of night and as the light of day. Perfumes, sounds, and colors correspond.
Yeah.
There are perfumes as cool as the flesh of children, sweet as oboes, green as meadows, and others are corrupt and rich, triumphant, with the power of to expand into infinity, like amber and incense, musk, beson,
I didn't know that word yet.
that sing the ecstasy of the soul and senses. And
That
this
is it. That is it.
William Egler,
I
The
agree.
Flowers of Evil.
That translation is excellent.
So to me, with the translation, it really brings across, at least from the English, because I don't speak French or
Yeah,
read
it is an excellent translation, actually. I kind of didn't understand a couple of the words in context, but as you read it, I got it. I got it. I didn't understand the word bonjour. I don't know if that was I don't know what that was. I couldn't find it in my dictionary.
But sometimes I think when writing poetry, to note, if you, to me, this is something I do, like you go by your senses. If you have, what do you see? How does it feel? You know what I mean? How does it smell? How does it sound? And they're actually writing prompts based on that. When you're starting to write poetry, that teachers may utilize. I heard someone come in there. Was that you, Krishna, or?
Yeah, yes, benzoin or benzoin.
Benzoin.
It's a sap. It's a sap that comes from when you cut the trunk of the tree. That's what I came across.
Good.
So it's a gum
understand.
resin.
Yeah. Resin. Okay, we believe, yes, resin. That is what it is. Yeah.
Okay, and we have another one. Can anyone see this one to read it?
I think that one you read was the perfect translation. I don't know. I don't agree with translations from Google.
This isn't from Google. The first one was actually from William Egler, The Flowers of Evil, and Frenzo, California Academy Library Guild, 1954. So I sourced them as well.
Let me make a
can
comment.
anyone?
Yeah, let me make a comment about this one by Campbell.
Anyone see the screen enough to read it or have the copy?
Kind of small.
Baudelaire. Yes. So Baudelaire. Sorry.
If you have the copy by Roy Campbell, do you mind reading it before you comment? Just in case others didn't read it.
Yeah, okay, I can read it.
Thanks.
All right. So go ahead and read it. All right.
Sure, thanks.
Nature is a temple where each living column at times gives forth vague words. There man advances through forest groves of symbols, strange and solemn, who follow him with their familiar glances. As long-drawn echoes mingle and transfuse, till in a deep, dark unison they swoon. Vast as the night, or as the vault of noon, so are commingled perfumes, songs, and hues. There can be perfumes cool as children's flesh, like fiddles, sweet, like meadows, greenly fresh, rich, complex, and triumphant. Others roll with the vast range of all non-finite things, amber, musk, incense, benjamin. Each sings the transports of the senses and the soul. Now, the comment I wanted to make is that Baudelaire, first time I'm seeing the poem. So a scene is like the 14-line sonnet form, but he structures it into two quatrains and two tercets, two quatrains and two tercets to make up the 14 lines. And he has a certain, his rhyme is A, B, B, A. That's the first stanza. So I'm looking at the French here first.
Yeah, A, B, B, A.
Then C, D, D, C. Then E, F, E, F, G, G. That's the scheme he uses, right? That's Baudelaire. Now this person, Campbell, decides to use the rhyme too. But what I notice about his rhyme, so he's selecting words to get a rhyme scheme. So he translates pillars for column. He puts column. And to me, that's where we talk about lost in translation. When, the associations that go with the word pillar, it's different from the associations that go with the word column. Correct, Sophia? Likewise.
Yeah, but they are close, but
yeah. But when you say pillar, you know, we talk about a pillar of strength. We don't talk about a column of strength.
Yes,
right?
yes, that's true.
That's what I mean. So things, I always say things get lost in translation.
Yes, it does. It does. It
Yeah.
does. It really does.
And so he has soon
But
and noon.
he chooses his words carefully, you know.
Yes, yes, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying as the poet is choosing the translator because he wants to make this.
Because the translator is trying to capture the essence
right
of the poem as well.
But he resorted now to, I'm saying, I didn't like his choice of the rhyming words like swoon.
Yeah.
He says profound unity, right? Baudelaire. He says in dark unisons they swoon, and then he talks about the vault of noon.
Yeah, but
says clarté.
Listen,
la clarté. Yes.
And in the initial poem, did those two lines rhyme?
Yeah, but listen to this. When you rhyme in one language, as happens in Spanish often because you have agreements, and you try to do that in another language, it doesn't come true because you are not saying the essence of the poem. The essence of the poem in the rhyming is in the language, in the foreign language itself. So what Baudelaire does here in his language, if you try to rhyme this, it changes the feeling that he is trying to project.
Correct. That's the point I'm making. Yes. It changes.
Yes, the feeling. Because
to a great extent, it changes. So can you translate emotions?
Well, let's look at the next piece.
Yeah.
The next piece with the meditation. Would you like to read that next piece, Sophia, so we could see if it transpires with that as well?
This one is let's see, totally, what is it with? He is
recruitment.
Recueillement. It means thoughts. He's thinking back. This is his memory. And I think this is I like this poem very much because there's a softness to it, but there's also a lot of satire because he is criticizing people. He's calling people, I will hear it, things, the different things. So he's talking to his pain, right? Why I like this, because I think it's a classic example of personification, right? So he's thinking back, and he's saying to his pain, douleur means pain. Sois sage, ô ma douleur, et tiens-toi pour ton qui. Tout réclamait le soir, il descend, le voici. Une atmosphère obscure enveloppe la vie. Aux uns, portant la paix, aux autres, le souci. Pendant pour des mortels, la multitude de villes. Sous le fouet de plaisir, ce bourreau sans merci va cueillir des remords dans la fête servile. Ma douleur, donne-moi la main, viens par ici. Loin d'eux, vois se pencher les défuntes années. Sur le balcon du ciel, en robe surannée, surgir du fond des eaux, le regret souriant. Le soleil moribond s'endormir sous une arche, et comme un long linceul traînant à l'orient. Entends, ma chère, entends la douce nuit qui marche. That's it.
Thank you. Why don't we read the translations? Does anyone have the translations that they can read? We have 2 sets. I can read the first one, meditation. Be quiet and more discreet, oh my grief. I love that line. You cried
Yes.
out for the evening, even now it falls. A gloomy atmosphere envelops the city, bringing peace to some, anxiety to others.
Mm.
While the vulgar herd of mortals, under the scourge of pleasure, that merciless torturer, goes to gather remorse in the several festival, my grief,
Servile means
servile festival,
Yes.
my grief, give me your hand, come this way, far from them. See the dead years in old-fashioned gowns, lean over the balconies of heaven. Smiling regret rise from the depths of the waters. The dying sun fall asleep beneath an arc, and listen, darling, to the soft footfalls of the night that trails off to the east like a long winding sheet. So we also have a second by Roy Campbell. Sophia, would you like to read that one, please?
No, could I say something on the poem itself?
Sure, but let's read the two translations first. For those of
can-
us that don't speak French, they
Can
can
we
get
read it?
a little bit of an understanding of it.
Can we read it, Gisha?
Yes, please.
I can't see the writing is so small.
Meditation. Be good, my sorrow. Hush now, settle down. You sighed for dusk, and now it comes. Look there. A denser atmosphere obscures the town, to some restoring peace, to others care. While the lewd multitude, like hungry beasts, by pleasure scourged, no thug so fierce as he, go forth to seek remorse among their feasts. Come, take my hand, escape from them with me. From balconies of sky around us yet lean the dead years in fashions that have ceased. Out of the depth of water smiles regret. The sun sings moribund beneath an arc, and like a long shroud rustling from the east, hark, love, the gentle night is on the march.
Thank you. I love their lines that just hit. For me, at least. The gentle night is on the march. That's a line that hit for me. Another line that hits, be quiet and more discreet, oh my grief. Many lines. I loved this piece.
Yes,
the most.
it's French, but I think you will really appreciate it at French because
Sure.
there is a rhythm, there is a total kind of peacefulness. Although he's talking, to as he said, the servile people, he's telling his pain that has come away from that. There's a real softness, if you think about it, and a total feeling of trust, that he is calling his pain, I really love this poem. I have loved this poem from a very, very long time. I think it's very, very expressive. And the personification is great,
Yeah. Anyone else has anything to share? Now, I know Emily Dickinson had a poem, Because I Could Not Stop for Death.
Oh yes, I love that poem.
I loved that poem.
I love that
throughout,
poem.
like
Very,
high
very
school.
much.
And when I read this, for some reason, that just seemed to flow.
Yes. To be an excellent poem. The one about the carriage.
Yes.
Yeah. Carriage stop for me, yeah.
So I don't know if anyone else can concur, or if anyone else has anything to share on these poems that we would have read. All right. Sophia, I want to thank you so much for sharing with us. I know you did your dissertation on on this, and you could probably speak for a whole session. And perhaps maybe we'll arrange
you
that
so
in the future.
Thank you so much.
So thank
Thanks
you
for
so
having
much for
me.
sharing, and thank you everyone for your input and for reading. And I would like to ask Kwesi if he would be willing to share his piece with us today, because he wrote an original piece, but he wasn't here for our open mic. So if he's willing to share.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. There we go. So the floor is yours.
Okay, so we just want to know how this feels because we send it out or whatever. Should we do like a sharing thing? Let me see if we find it.
I didn't get any piece sent to me, so I'm not sure.
Mhm.
Do you need to share your screen, or?
We could probably share it, yeah.
Okay, do you want to send it to me, or do you, I can make you co-host and you can share your screen.
We can't share it just like that. We have to be co-hosts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or we could just read it.
Okay, do you want to read it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh gosh. Why are you taking long? You knew you was doing all this work. Okay. Should we copy it and put it in chat so people can see it or anything?
Sure, if you'd like.
Yeah. So we send this out and we hope on too long. Yeah. Okay, we'll just read it. So the feathers wisp at dawn. We are off at 2 in the morning, cars on the promenade, silhouettes that echo melanin pall, Muslim winning the wapi and relationships going sour all around we. If you see people turning fibs at this hour, pulling off the brisk toppling of daylight, piling down the pinnacle of mountains, letting darkness fall on all the buildings. Port of Spain sits down at eye level. Everything becomes the same, a malicious blur, naturally bound to freedom, reminding the unlucky carapace that stacks tequila and short plastic puncheon cups down your disheveled eyes. The cold is harder than your skin. The pedantic air penetrates your feeling. A wind grows up beside you and veils the biting reality that love is your only friend. But love is bourgeoisie and expensive, spoiled with it. She becomes fascinated by new and smells, insists we build her the cathedral on her stomata. If only her voice rang with a splash of cold water, her timbre would be a new genre of make-believe, with men driving forward, turned sideways to see things convenient to a populace by the window, shopping for first world celebrity, to give yearning to the eyes what the hearts feel, to agree there is need for the end of civility. They bury themselves in cards, gossip, and small talk. Cockroaches always run to the walls, away from the light. So, love in her tattered remains grabs fish by one hand and they run away from the gamble down into Chacon Street, the capiche slipping through her fingers. The city pulls down the curtain, unbuttons the illusion of productivity, and facade tapers like a long black skirt. Everything remembers how to touch the floor when it is made to walk long distances. All things were made to fall on the strength of spirits when the weight of God is ready to claim its mass. glass bottles being thrown behind some putrid volume, firecrackers or ignited gunpowder, and the sharp boombox of bass and dead ringing. Threats are like love notes at 3 o'clock at 3 o'clock this morning. Love comes as a warning, and those who bear witness to love do so at the risk of pain and tears and mourning. In these last thoughts, being new feet, you might see a stir of sparrows zipping through that day's pollution, liming. The quiet supernatural becomes the pungent manner of all things, as sound becomes isolated, recalling rats, punctuated thrums, building bridges over madness, giving things an ease upon which we walk. The moon is a more potent comforter. You can always look to the moon eye to eye, but for the sun, they make specific glasses. It is not always that you can greet the sun when your eyes, shining the sentiment of strangers, glistening that sheen that comes with waxing. People are allowed to close their eyes to the night's love when they have bought the luxury of locked doors that stand up to the idle values occupied with their things. The ritual of a new day starts with corporation men sweeping the road. Pies and newspapers just come out at the same time approximately. One will go cold, the other sell out, and dogs will talk to people. This is the hour things become. In this twilight of morning, where there are splotches of motors running, and we wait in a culvert for the brisk toppling to begin alight again. Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry.
No, thank you. Wow. Any comments on that riveting piece?
You
No,
said it,
thank you.
Gulsha. You said
For
it,
me, it
Gulsha.
really
Riveting.
spoke. Hi, Krishna, you have a comment? Sorry.
I say you said it, a riveting piece.
Yes.
Great use of metaphoric language there, Kwesi. Great, good.
Yes, and I think it really spoke of our current atmosphere culturally. Okay, with that, I think that was the best piece to close this session with, because it was really powerful. I think it leaves us with a lot to think of, and how poetry really speaks to where we reside in life at this point in time, and how even poetry written long ago can still relate and hit home with the human experience. So I thank you all for today. Thank you for sharing your work. Thank you for your feedback. Thank you to everyone that read and shared. I look forward to having Darren as our author of the month next month. We're going to be doing something different, where we're going to be reading a play in celebration of Darren and his work. And I look forward to having Mutilal back at full strength with us. And with that, we will close our meeting.
Okay, bye.
What date will that be in for Darren? What date?
All right.